I'm on page 27 in the packet. Today, we'll focus on dimensional analysis. This is a topic that we'll see over and over in this course, and it's something that just pops up out of nowhere. Like at some point a few weeks from now, you'll come across a question where they give the units in feet per second, and they want the answer in miles per hour. And you just have to pay attention to that. But this is something that's very important for other sciences. I know you see this a lot in chemistry and physics and probably biology too. And you can find all kinds of uses for this in your daily life. So it's important to understand how it works. First, let's look at an easy one. How many feet per inch? Um, so there are 12 inches in 1 foot. We can write the equation 12 inches equals 1 foot. Doing dimensional analysis problems is like solving regular algebra problems. You divide and multiply to get things on the side that you want them to be on. If I divide both sides by 12, that cancels, and I get 1 inch equals, I'm going to write it as this. I'm going to write 1 foot over 12. And that's the answer. 1 foot over 12 would mean 1/12 of a foot. So how many feet are in 1 inch? How many feet per inch refers to how many feet are in 1 inch. So that would be 1/12 of a foot. Now we can divide units as if they were regular variables. So if I want to get this inch on the other side, I can do that by dividing both sides by inches. But instead of dividing, I'm going to multiply by 1/inch to make it a little bit more clear what I'm doing. So remember, multiplying by a reciprocal is the same as dividing. So if I want to divide by inches, I can multiply by 1 divided by inches. It's the same thing. So if I do that, I get 1 over 1 over an inch times 1 inch equals 1 foot over 12 times 1 over inch. And you see, this is going to cancel with this, and that's going to give me 1 equals 1 foot over 12 inches. So what I have is that 1 equals 1 foot divided by 12 inches. Now, if I take the reciprocal of both sides, I'll have the reciprocal of 1, which is just 1, and the reciprocal of this is going to be 12 inches over 1 foot. So 1 foot over 12 inches and 12 inches over 1 foot both equal 1, which means when I multiply things by this or this, but when I multiply something by this or this, I'm only multiplying it by 1. I'm not actually changing anything. And that's the trick here. The trick with dimensional analysis, you begin with some quantity and then multiply it by these strange forms of 1 in order to convert the units. When doing dimensional analysis, it's easier to multiply by reciprocals rather than divide. Remember that the reciprocal of a number is 1 divided by the number. So if you want to divide some number x divided by 12, that's the same thing as x times 1 over 12, where 1 over 12 is the reciprocal of 12. Recall that to multiply fractions, you multiply the numerator times the numerator and the denominator times the denominator. So if you have A over B times C over D, that's going to equal AC over BD. And of course, also remember that a whole number can always be viewed as a fraction with 1 as the denominator. So if A is a number, then that's the same as A over 1. So if you want to multiply a whole number by a fraction, just remember that the denominator is 1. We can multiply the units as if they were regular variables. Our goal is to lay out the fractions so that everything cancels except for the units we want to keep. So let's say we want to compute the number of yards in 96 inches. Well, we're in inches and we want to go into yards. We could use the fact that 36 inches equals 1 yard, but let's go through feet instead. What we have is 96 inches. And we want to get rid of the inches and turn that into feet. So I would want to multiply by some fraction that has inches on the bottom and feet on the top. I don't want to change the value of this thing, so I'd want to multiply by 1. So as we did before, we're going to have 1 foot divided by 12 inches. And this is a fraction with 1 on the bottom. Now, so if we multiply this, we're going to have 96 inches times feet over 1 times 12 inches. Well, this inch is going to, we have an inch at the top, inch at the bottom. The inch will cancel. And that's going to leave us with 96 feet over 1 times 12, which is 12. So I have 96 feet over 12. 96 divided by 12 is 8 feet. And that's how we go from inches into feet. Now to go from feet into yards, we do the same thing. 8 feet divided by 1, because we want to think of it as a fraction, times something with feet at the bottom, because we want the feet to cancel, and yard on top. And what we have is that there are 3 feet in 1 yard. And that gives me the feet cancel, and that's going to be 8 times 1 yard is 8 yards over 1 times 3, which is 3. And that's going to, so that's 8/3 of a yard, which is about, what, 2.67 yards. We can chain this all together. Say 96 inches divided by 1 times 12 inches over 1 foot times 3 feet per 1 yard, right? And then the feet will cancel, the inches will cancel. You have 96 times 1 times yard, which is 96 yards. And you have 1 times 12 times 3, which is going to be 36. And if you factor that, you would have what, 8 times 12 over 3 times 12 yards. 12 cancels, gives you 8/3 of a yard, as we had before.